it's Lee from coloringqueen.net, and today I've been playing with my crayons and I wanted to see how far or what we could actually do with crayons because they're so cheap to buy. Anyone can use them, and it's just a matter of, working out how we can use them best in our colouring books and colouring pages. So I've seen on YouTube people melting the crayons onto the paper and being able to blend them smoothly, so I thought I'd give it a try. So here's my first one and second one, where I heated up the paper and then put the crayon over it, so you get a smoother finish without that sort of waxy residue. Now this is a light cardstock that I used, and I also tried it on a piece of watercolour paper, and again getting that lovely smooth colouring just from heating up the paper first before colouring it in with the crayon. So I tried this the other day and I used my hairdryer and I had it on a low setting, so I borrowed my husband's heat gun, which is, not the pink heat gun that I wanted and very grubby, because I thought I'll have to use the heat gun in order to do this little experiment. But what I found when I used my hairdryer for the second time, I popped it onto the high setting and it worked. So most of us have a hairdryer, so this makes it sort of something cheap and easy that we can do. So I'm going to turn the hairdryer on, and what I'm going to do is warm up the area that I want to colour in with the crayons. So I will be turning the audio down so that the really high noise from my hairdryer doesn't disturb you. Now I don't have a fancy hairdryer, this is just like a travel hairdryer, and I really don't dry my hair that much, so it's only got 3 settings on it. Oh, sorry, it's only got 2 settings on it, so I'm using the highest setting. So the paper will be warm when you touch it. So it's just gliding across the paper now, and this is the light cardstock, so it's just gliding along really super easy. There's no tooth showing, it's just a little bit of wax bloom coming off, but super easy glide coming along like that. So that's a super smooth finish, and something that I haven't been able to achieve that smoothly with the other blending techniques. So that is super smooth. So what I can do is warm it up again. Add more colour if I want, and it's just gliding over. Just absolutely gliding. If it's too hot, the crayon will start to slide off, but as you've seen, my hairdryer is only a 2 setting cheapo one, so it's not really going to slide off, but look how smooth this is going on. Now we do get the wax dust because they are wax based, so you can blow them off or brush them off. Probably best to use a feather or something like that rather than your hand, but just so smooth. I'm just using the 24 packet of crayons, so look how easy it is just to add another colour on here. It's just gliding across, not a care in the world. So super easy way of using up those crayons that you might have lying around the house and just cheaply colouring in with them. Now I think I've got something underneath on this mat here that's causing a little ripple or a little mark there, but it's just gliding across, I can't believe it. So let's try it on the actual watercolour paper. So again, I'm just going to heat up the area with my hairdryer. I'm kind of stopping it when it's too hot for my fingers. Now this is not quite as smooth as the cardstock, but it's still very smooth and going on just so easily. I just blew that wax duster. Unbelievably smooth. Now if you want to do some finer edges, just make sure you sharpen your crayon. I'm using my Staedtler 2-hole sharpener in the larger hole, and every now and again I clean it out with a lead pencil just to ensure that the blade is clean. I am getting a lot of wax on my fingers, which I'll have to brush off later. Now it's starting to cool down, so now it's not as smooth going over as it was previously, so let's warm it up again. And now we're back to just this smooth glide. So you can add other colours in and melt them. Now your tips of your crayons will get a little melty. You're going on a hot surface all the time. But there's a lot of things that you can do with just these little melted crayons on either watercolour or just plain cardstock. Probably wouldn't use like trade stock paper because you'll want to go over it several times and you're sort of reheating it, so it might not be strong enough. But you know, if you want to give it a whirl, just make sure you practice on a page that you don't like that much. Now because it is quite melty, don't brush it away when it's still sort of too warm, or otherwise you'll transfer little bits out of the lines like I've done there. Now I've got the heat gun, so we may as well use that as well so that we can see the difference between the hairdryer effect and the heat gun. So with the heat gun, we have to be careful not to get too close to it because it does get a lot hotter than the hairdryer, and I've burnt the paper. So just bear that in mind if you're using a heat gun. Now this one is a professional heat gun, so it's an actual trades tool. I don't think the craft ones, the little pink ones that they usually sell on eBay or in craft stores, would be quite as powerful as this. So I should have had it up higher, but I've got my camera in the way. So we'll try it again on the other side without burning it this time. So just bear that in mind. Now it's super smooth and very melty. So I'm not going to put too much crayon down because it's just gliding everywhere. And this is the watercolour paper. But we're getting a really nice blend there. I'll warm it up before I add another colour to it. But it's very waxy and very slippery. And I'm very glad that I used the watercolour paper to absorb it all. But look how vibrant it is because of that, the lovely vibrant colours that are in the 24 pack of Crayola. Getting quite a lot of wax dust, which I'll blow off once it's sort of cooled down a little bit. But my tip of my crayon is really blunting very easily because it's so smooth and so crayony here. But this is going to produce a really lovely vibrant effect. And you know, it's something that you can all do at home for a very low cost, just with some items that you've probably already got. And as I said, I bought my crayons for $1, so I'm sure they're cheaper in the US. And on the back to school sales is when I got mine. Yeah, very smooth. And once it starts drying a little bit or not being quite as hot, it won't cover as much, so add a bit more, warm it up a bit. By the way, I'm resting it on a wooden chopping board in between times because it is hot, but again, this is a proper tool, not a craft one, so I've got quite a lot of wax dust there. But look how vibrant it is. Super vibrant, lots of lovely colours on there. This image, by the way, is from Christine Aldridge's free images that she has on her Facebook page. I really like it because it's got all the lovely little flowers on it. So let's try the heat gun on the light cardstock, and I hope that I don't set that one on fire. So we'd already tried it with the blues down here with the hairdryer, and that gave us a lovely smooth finish. Really happy with that. So let's try the same flower. And warming up first with the heat gun at a distance. It's getting a bit blunt, so I will need to sharpen that. And it's gliding on the cardstock, just as smooth as. It's gliding so much, it's like satin or something like that. So very smooth, there's no give in it, it's just gliding across the page. I wonder what it would be like to have the large set of crayons now. So many more colours in them, and they're so inexpensive. Plus you can melt down the stubs of your crayons and make crayon art. I never thought to do a colour swatch on crayons, but perhaps I should have. And again, we're getting that lovely vibrant look. And thankfully I've learnt my lesson now with the heat gun, and I'm going from a distance. Just going to add some more colour there. As a smoothing on, it's like lipstick. It's just going straight over the top. So you can layer, you can blend, you can get super vibrant colours. When you need a finer point, just use your pencil sharpener. But that is so smooth and vibrant. If I was to do that with my Prismacolors that are lovely and soft as well, it would take me ages. You might get a bit of crayon dust embedded into your picture, but I'm just scraping it off with my fingernail. So there we have it, colouring with crayons. Use either your hairdryer that you've got laying around the house, or perhaps buy a craft heat gun if you wanted to. I wouldn't go to the expense of buying a tradesman quality one. So I hope you've had fun with your crayons today, and until next time, happy colouring.